Oh my god, hello. I'm so excited to be making this video. Um, I watched back the other video that I posted. Obviously, I watched it back because I edited it, but I just rewatched the last, booktube video that I made. This is my second video ever, so I'm still new, so still relax, but I definitely want to be able to, show my personality a little bit more because I was just nervous, guys. I was just nervous. But we're here. This is Hubert, by the way.
Hooray!
He is holding my microphone, feeling a lot more professional also. He's agreed to hold my mic for the entirety of the video, so I have agreed to hold him. It's a fair trade. But I asked my followers on Instagram about their bookish hot takes, and so that is what we're gonna be diving into today, and I'm actually so excited because some people said some whack ass shit. But yeah, so let's just dive into it. So I had to write down all of them in my journal because I'm filming this on my phone. So I don't have a fancy camera to film my videos. So I can't just scroll on Instagram while I'm doing this. So forgive me for that. First person, what they said was Stephen King is a mediocre author who had a few good hits. And to be honest, I haven't read too much of Stephen King. So I feel like I'm not the most qualified person to say if this is a valid hot take or not. I've had The Stand by Stephen King on my TBR forever, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Obviously, if you have that degree of success and you're that prolific, you must be doing something right. So we'll see once I read that if I agree with the fact that he's a mediocre author. Um, Mediocre author? Why does that sound weird? Mediocre author? No, that's right. Somebody said smut is filler unless the participants discuss things that further the plot. So now this is where we're getting into some I disagree, you can have your opinion, but it's okay to be wrong, I will say obviously if a book is entirely smut and you feel like there's no plot and the smut is the plot, then I agree with you. That's a little bit unnecessary. That's a little bit too much. I think my problem with this hot take is just in this person's wording, to be honest, because I understand where they are coming from. I understand smut is not everybody's thing. I totally understand that. If you want to go ahead and read books that have zero smut in them, nobody's holding a gun to your head being like, read smut, read smut, read. Nobody's doing that, okay? Nobody's doing that. Are there books where I think there's too much smut? Absolutely. It's like anything, it's a balance, okay? It's a balance, and we need to recognize that. However, this person said the smut is filler. Sorry, there was a bird. The smut is filler unless the participants discuss things that further the plot. Sometimes the smut is the plot. If this is a slow burn relationship that has been developing for the entire novel and they finally get together, that's a big thing that's a major moment. That might be the climax of the book. If it's a romance movie, the two characters getting together, especially if it's at the end, that's the climax of the book. That is the plot. They don't even be discussing it. If this isn't a romantic relationship that's being built up throughout the book, why are they then I understand that. I understand that. However, I also think it would be weird, for example, if this was a fantasy novel. I feel like fantasy novels have the most smut. But if this is a fantasy novel and these people are on the same team working to fight these evil forces, and then they're in bed being like, oh baby, you do it so good, so what's the game plan for our battle tomorrow? I don't need them discussing the plot while they're making out and stuff. So I think my problem with this take is just the wording alone, because I do agree there should be balance to smut, but I don't think it's necessary to have it be them discussing the plot. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay. My hot take could be that reading really needs to happen more for our brains to rewire dopamine circuits and get back to releasing less in a day. Journaling connects to this also, I feel. Because our society is so reliant on instant gratification, anything long term seems daunting and not as satisfactory overall. 100%! 100% you are correct. 100% you're correct. I love this take. Something that I struggle with, and like I think that so many people struggle with, is just not being on social media that much, not letting yourself get into the scrolling loop of all of these dopamine hits. And I think that finding hobbies, and when I say hobbies, obviously stuff that you enjoy and is meaningful to you, but I think also hobbies, you should have at least one hobby that is helpful in your mental cognition. And I think that reading is like the most common, most scientifically backed, like, this is a good hobby to have. This is good. Buckle in. This is good. We are so used to these dopamine hits that this person is talking about because of the instant gratification. We want to just have these dopamine hits. We need to decrease the level of dopamine that we're receiving. Like, we really do. Um, and I think that building habits that don't have instant gratification is a huge part of this. And that's what this person is talking about. We need to have things that you need to put in work for. You're not going to be instantly gratified as soon as you start. This reading overall takes so much more time, and I think that developing our skills, developing our cognition in ways that are going to be just helpful for us long term is so important. Journaling also is such a good shout for this, because if you journal the right way, it is forced reflection, and again, it's going to lower that dopamine while still feeling productive and still doing something that is good for your health. So I love this take personally. The next person said, the obsession with shadow daddies teaches women to be therapists for their sad boyfriends. So I am not the biggest fantasy reader, so I had to actually look up what like qualified as a shadow daddy, because I just assumed that it was like a vampire that's been around for a really long time and then starts dating someone. And I watched a video from the book Leo, which is one of my favorite booktubers, and she was kind of going through different shadow daddies in different fantasies, um, and writing out the age gaps between them and their very young female counterparts. Literally, some of them are hundreds of years old, and she's like 18. The hallmarks of a shadow daddy are: one, you're basically immortal, you're hundreds of years old, or on that track at least. And then you also have some sort of like dark magic, shadow magic, um, which is like inherent to your character. I think that like this can be extended to also the like grumpy ex sunshine trope, because I just never think it is a woman's job to like behaviorally manage a man. Like, what? What are we doing? You are not responsible for the emotions of other people, period. Like, you are never responsible for that. Can you be a good partner and ask how your partner's day is going? Of course. Of course. That's not what I'm saying, okay? That's not what I'm saying. You should care about the feelings of others. You should have empathy. I understand. However, if you have this angry ass boyfriend who comes in every day and is mad about work, is mad about their life, and like takes out all of their anger on you and ruins your good day, that's not good. That's not good. So, I think if shadow daddies are contributing to that, again, I haven't read any shadow daddy fantasy. I guess the only one I have read is the first Court of Thorns and Roses, which I hated. I hated it. I hated it. And one of my critiques was that this guy, who's dating Fair, I don't even know how to say her name. Hey, what is his name? Rysand? What even is that? God. He was like 1,000 years old or something. I don't know. I actually don't remember the details of it, but I just remember hating it, okay? And she was like 18 or 20 or something, and he's like 700. I'm like, this is, I don't want to say statutory. This is bad. This is bad. Um, But I think that like if shadow daddies are like these grumpy, like immature, especially if you're immature at that old age, if you're 900 years old and you're immature and you're taking out your feelings on this 17-year-old girl, oh my God, get it together. Get it together. You can have a villain, if you're an author, make a villain who isn't like annoying. Oh, I hate that. Obviously, I understand the like draw into shadow daddies because they're old and experienced and they've been with a lot of women or they've been around the block. So they know what they're talking. Whatever. Whatever. For real. Oh my god. I'm over it, clearly. Moving on. The next take is actually two people had something very similar, so I'm going to read them both and then discuss. One of them said, Colleen Hoover isn't actually that bad for an author. I'm going to silently scream at you. The second one, Loki, I feel like Coho. They wrote Coho, which I just think is funny. Loki, I feel like Coho isn't even a bad writer. She just knows that there's a huge market for corny, bad romance and capitalized on it. And if it wasn't for book talk, people would still be eating it up. It's okay to be wrong. The first person I can very disagree with. I can very I can strongly disagree with them. I'm gonna post just a little freaking screenshot of one of the you can't tell me in any context that this is okay. You can't, okay? You can't tell me that that's okay. Okay, that's crazy. That's crazy. The second person I can get more into a discourse with because does she understand her market? Absolutely. Absolutely. Like there obviously is a very big market for corny bad romance. I'm not hating on that. If you read romance, great. If you read Colleen Hoover, I'm looking at you sideways because of the shit that she does. I'm looking at you sideways because of the coloring book. Okay? And I think the interesting part of what this person said, though, was how Book Talk received her writing. And she said, if it wasn't for Book Talk, people would still be eating it up. And I think the problem is people still are eating it up, especially right wing people, people who don't really care about how politics affect books. Books are political. Books are ingrained into the fabric of society. They're ingrained into our culture. They're ingrained into how we treat each other. There's a huge hot take, and I watch a lot of these videos, and a lot of people in their hot takes videos will talk about separating the art from the artist. You can't do it. Sorry. Sorry. Especially if they're still alive. If you are consuming media that pays a person who is doing wrong, you're just putting money in their pocket. And of course, there's gray area for everything, of course. But I think, especially for Colleen Hoover, there's not a world in which you could pay me to read her stuff. Even if I got the book for free, even if I knew I wasn't contributing to her, I wouldn't want to fucking read it. I'm not a romance reader anyways, so like I know I'm not the target audience, but Jesus Christ, people. Like ugh. No hate to the people who commented though. It's okay to be wrong. The last hot take is I just think this is really funny. Someone said, "My hot take is on hot takes. I think 90% of people who have a hot take have a mild one at best." And I think you're right. And I think you're right. You know, I think people love to get on here and talk and complain. Who said that? Who said that? I think people love to complain. I think people should have an outlet to complain. We should be able to be critical and have hot takes. I love having hot takes. There's so many times where in my English classrooms, I would say something and I was the only person in the class who thought that. And I ate it up. I was like, and I wasn't trying to do that just to be different, of course, but we'd be reading books. And I think there's also this moment where a lot of English majors, especially, will try to really enjoy the book because they know their professor put it on the syllabus for a reason. I did not care about that. I said, if a professor is putting this on the syllabus and making me purchase it and making me read it, I'm going to tell you straight up what I am thinking. Especially, I had one class that was contemporary literature and postmodernism. You can see how I feel about postmodernism in the last video I just made. I think there's good postmoderns, but the majority of them I don't enjoy. I don't love the genre. I don't love it. I don't love it. So there were definitely moments where like people would be like defending the crap out of the book or defending the crap out of this character, and I'm like, guys, are you kidding? So I think it's natural to want to disagree, and we should. And I think that hot takes are a cool form of that. Are they the end all be all? No, we all know that. Like, what? But I love when someone has a scorching hot take. Like, some of these takes were like, they're fine. They're fine. They're fine. But the Colleen Hoover ones were the most scorching because I just like hate that idea that people are reading her. I hate it. She's a bad author. She sexualizes children and romanticizes domestic violence. Why am I singing? I'm singing to make it less awkward, but she romanticizes domestic abuse and sexualizes children. So, whoops, I said it. Anywho, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I really would love to do this again with some more scorching hot takes. I would love to. So if you have any hot takes, feel free to share. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Am I a real influencer? Like and subscribe. But yeah, no, genuinely, if you do have hot takes, I want to know and I want to hear them. And maybe I'll react to them later on. So yeah, thanks for sticking around and watching. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. I never asked you to. Okay, bye. I'll see you in the next video.